The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, was appointed to 5 additional portfolios.
The not telling the relevant colleagues at the time is a great disappointment.
I'll do one lap.
The fact that ministers were unaware of these things is actually proof of my lack of interference or intervention.
Who knew about it occurring? Are there any legal implications behind decisions that were made? How can we avoid this happening again?
Federal Parliament is scheduled to sit for just one more week this year. Until now, most of the attention and drama has centred on the first budget of a new government and its key legislative reforms to industrial relations and an anti-corruption commission. And there has been the new interest in assessing the independence in both houses.
But that is all about to change. Tomorrow, the Governor-General and the Prime Minister are due to receive the findings of the Bell inquiry, the inquiry by former High Court Justice Virginia Bell into one of the strangest stories in Australian politics, Scott Morrison's appointment of himself to multiple ministries in the previous Parliament, and the extraordinary secrecy which meant none of the colleagues with whom he was sharing jobs knew about it.
It would be appropriate, in my view, for Scott Morrison to resign and to leave Parliament. It is now up to him what he chooses to do.
Vote for me.
The Bell report will almost certainly be made public as Victorians go to the polls on Saturday.
Bell's report will decisively shift the focus back onto the Coalition and its recent record in office. This shift will be further highlighted by the release of a new book titled Bulldozed about the demise of the Coalition and Anthony Albanese's election victory by veteran Press Gallery journalist Nikki Sava. Questions of accountability and transparency of ministerial behaviour are likely to dominate the weekend's media coverage and next week's Parliament.
Using public office as a politician to enrich your private friends and mates, including political donors, is not a shade of grey.
And almost on cue, there were separate but disturbing new allegations today concerning close Morrison confidant and former Cabinet Minister Stuart Robert.
If and when public office has been used to enrich private mates, it is corruption.
The 9 newspapers have published leaked emails suggesting Mr Robert, a Queensland Liberal MP, secretly gave advice to Synergy 360 in 2017 and 2018 and helped the Canberra lobbying firm meet senior political figures. At the time, Mr Robert sat on the back bench. The allegations, which Mr Robert completely denies, do not constitute any illegal conduct.
This morning, I have asked the CEO of Services Australia and the CEO of the National Disability Insurance Agency to immediately and thoroughly investigate any of the contracts awarded to these companies and individuals named in these reports, to assure me and the Australian people that the process was entirely above board and appropriate.
Do you claim to be misrepresented?
Oh, most egregiously, Mr Speaker, most egregiously. With respect to the article in The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald, when I was on the backbench 6 years ago, I reject outright the accusations and the innuendo.
The government has made much of restoring proper processes to government and voters' faith in the Parliament. After an election in which independent MPs who campaigned on the need for an anti-corruption commission were so successful, that would seem to make political sense. But it also made the government's tactical decisions in the House of Representatives today seem a little strange.
This is a very important amendment.
The government will be opposing this amendment.
The government opted to reject every single one of the amendments put up by the crossbench and by the Coalition to the bill establishing the Integrity Agency. It did this despite being accused of siding with the Coalition on the issue of just how frequently public hearings are likely to be held by the new anti-corruption body. In doing so, it has opted to not give any credit to the crossbench, particularly to the stalwart champion of the issue, Helen Haines.
The Coalition has mostly confined its attacks in this Parliament to policy issues such as industrial relations and energy prices. But as the year ends, there were signs of opposition leader Peter Dutton being prepared to engage in new culture wars on climate change.
Prime Minister, at a time when Labor's policies are driving up cost of living pressures for families, the government has just signed up to funding a $2 trillion loss and damage climate fund, which will send money overseas and beyond our region. Prime Minister, doesn't charity begin at home?
I tell you what we will do, or we won't do, which is to stand at a press conference with a microphone making jokes about Pacific Islands drowning. The idea that any foreign aid is giving Australians money to foreigners ahead of Australian interests, the Leader of the Opposition knows better.
This week marks 6 months since the government changed in Australia, but perhaps some things haven't entirely changed after all.